What will you do to unlock innovation? In today's fast-paced world, innovation might not be enough. Tomorrow's pioneers of change will need to be agile, able to adapt, and committed like never before. Your host, Sannah Vinding, invites you to listen in and join business leaders from around the world as they share their visions for success in our future business challenges.
Welcome to Mind Innovation. I'm your host, Sannah Vinding. I'm always excited to learn. And in today's podcast, we'll talk about agility, product development, and customer value. I want to welcome Sudhanshu Srivastava. He's an accomplished product and customer executive. He's the business owner of Navikarna that focuses on business agility, coaching, and customer success. Previously, he was the VP of customer success at SAP, focusing on driving people transformation together with building an organization. So welcome, Sudhanshu. I'm so glad you're here today. Tell me about your passion about agile product management.
Sure. So let me start with myself first. How I kind of got into the agile world. I started my career on the shop floor, and I witnessed the lean manufacturing and just in time Kaizen. Those type of concepts which were coming from Japanese companies back in the early 90s. And that's when I got out of school. I was in computer science, CAD-CAM from a mechanical engineering perspective. I exposed to these softwares and then started bringing the agility and the speed to production. I have witnessed that, I have seen the challenges there. Later, I got into the software building world and joined a company called PTC, which is in Boston here, in the product management side. But we were doing very traditional waterfall way of doing things. And that's how the world was at that time in late 90s and 2000s. And then I was a bystander in terms of looking at how the Agile manifesto is getting created. I saw some of the articles and stuff, but I didn't understand what it means, But we started utilizing as well as adapting some of the XP type of functionalities at that time. Like, how can we make the delivery faster? Mm-hmm. And fast forward to when I came to SAP, that's where the company where I worked for 14 years was transforming to become an agile company, and it was becoming a cloud company. So it's if you look at the transformation, the cloud transformation, a lot of people think that moving to cloud is just a transformation, and that's what we are supposed to do.
That's a challenge, yeah.
That's a challenge. And then, that's where I started to pivot and see how we can do quick releases, which was totally foreign concept for SAP customers, because SAP used to release whenever they want to release. Okay. Yeah. And I got into the whole SDLC life cycles. That's where my real agile product management realization started. And we started many new things like I had remote teams. So we used to do remote ceremonies, which is totally unheard. I mean, now we are in, COVID phase. So everybody is remote.
Now we're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing it. But we did it back in 10 years back, people sitting in different locations, and we were doing 15 minutes, stand-ups and design thinking workshops we conducted with customers. And we really drove the product. Fast forward, we saw the customers and the products which were most successful were the ones which were driven by customers through these processes. And they were facts which we brought to the company, and that's how we pivoted. And that's where my agility journey started.
Yeah, that's good. So how do you use that today now, because you have a lot of insights, right, on that customer demands or what they're looking for? How do you merge that in? Because it's not every organization that are used to listen directly to their customers.
Right. So what I'm using it today, I'm learning, I'm teaching this and coaching this to my company through Navikarna with the clients. Yeah. But throughout my 10-15 years of my career, in the past 10 years and 15 years with agility, I have learned what are the elements which need to be focused on. So product discovery, product delivery, and the customer success. I think all these three pieces come together when you're moving to the cloud. Okay. So I bring that type of knowledge in terms of how you connect these dots together, and how do you focus on the customer value? How do you make sure your OKRs, your business values are reflected, and you are shifting to the left and shifting to the right?
Yeah. So is that are you helping or developing like a product mindset in these organizations that you go into, or
Absolutely.
what are you developing here?
So here, what I'm doing is, I think that the mindset of project-based mindset has to be shifted to product mindset, and that has to be translated into people transformation. So it's a
Yeah.
project to product to people transformation, and people only change. I mean, if you think about me and you, I will only change my habits if I change it from my heart, from here, right?
Yeah.
Where I really see that it's in it for me, right? And if it is not, then I will not change. So changing that is a very, very tricky, I would say, ordeal for companies, and that's what I coach.
Coach. So I think this is really interesting, right? Because you can go in and tell about, or you can see the company that then there is a transformation that needs to happen
Mhm.
to stay in business. It could be that kind of life urgency.
Mhm.
So how do you, I know you say you can, it's communication, right? You need to communicate, why are we doing this? Why do we have this transformation? But the people, it's not an easy one to solve. How to get everybody on board, how to get that transformation, how to get them for not being resistant, which is a natural of different phases. You have the one that is resistant, and then they, I don't know if you say they want to see the light, and then they change, or they join the transformation and being part of it. So I think when you go in, you will always have some groups that loves it. You will have some groups that say there will be this resistance. So what's your secret sauce for the resistant part of the people?
That's great.
What do you do?
That's a great question. So I will tell you, the skeptics and the resistance people are more than the ones who take the prescription just like that. Right? They will not start, eating the pill just of agile, just like that.
Yeah.
It's definitely a mindset change in terms of what is in it for them. So the secret sauce is that we always talk about customer value, but we need to really think about what's the value for a product owner, what is the value for product manager, what's the value for the sales guy, what's the value for the marketing, HR, all the teams which are connected. And another secret sauce is that product should be owned by entire company. It's not just owned by product owner. Like we call it, product owner is the CEO of the product.
Yeah.
Yes, in some shape or form it is, but it doesn't mean that he should be driving. He knows all the answers, and so on and so forth. And every time I go and I tell the product owners that you guys are CEOs, but you're not responsible for the product success, by the way. And they I love you, because they because they get so much pressure that they
Yeah.
have to make the customer success, and the product successful. And all the KPIs and all the numbers they are tracking is their responsibility. So what I would say is that the secret sauce is that people to internalize that product success is their responsibility. It's a joint responsibility. We all are responsible for the success of the product, which translates into the business success, which also translates into the customer success. And then the other secret sauce here is, for those skeptics and for those people who are resisting,
Yeah.
is to coach them, to really listen to what their problem is. Okay, what is that they feel will not work? And usually, what happens is that they will have a very valid point because they have been successful in the past, right?
Yeah.
And they are extremely successful people. When you talk about all these buzzwords of agility and scrums and kanbans and all that,
Yeah.
it's overwhelming for them. And they're like, yeah, we have been doing this, but we know it is not going to work because the problem is this. So
Yeah.
what you do is you take that problem which they're talking to and
Yeah.
put the contextualize with these prescriptive methodologies which are out there. And nobody should be forced to use a specific thing, like not the Scrum or Spotify or whatever. You have
Yeah.
to adapt the way it works for your team. And this is about the team making that decision. So once they start taking the decision, their skin is getting into the game, and
Yeah.
then they start changing. And it is a
Okay.
slow process, but that's the
Yeah.
transformation happens.
That's
So
the
these are the
transfer.
three. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. So what about trust? Because I'm sure, again, you have the resistancy, but also if you have a team and cross-functional team, you have to make sure that there's a trust across all the departments.
Yeah.
So
Let me
have you
ask
seen
you.
anything there? Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you, how do you trust someone? You only trust someone if there's a transparency. You know, I'm married for 25 years with my wife, and the trust between us is that there's a transparency part, right? She can take my phone and see whatever is is there, right? So the transparency part is
Yeah.
extremely important, and
Oh, yeah.
and in the whole agility process actually advocates the transparency, okay, among the all the stakeholders. So if you tell the business guys that this is the reason this sprint is going to be totally dedicated for technical debt, and this is the reason, and show him the fact, show him what the problems are, then the business guy will actually say, okay, it makes sense, because you're being transparent to them.
Yeah.
And I have seen that happening. You bring the viable people, the usable people, and the people who are knowledgeable about the product, the technical guys, bring them into a room, around a round table, and just show them the reality that this is the problem, dude. Can you help me? I mean, this is what my problem is. And
Yeah.
then they start empathizing. So trust can, as people will be mistrusting anything as soon as they find out from somebody else. Okay, then
Okay.
they will start questioning. So that's what it is.
That's what it is. Okay. So what when you get the, take me to the next one here. So critical thinking, right? Because if you're saying this is the, let's solve a problem together, you need to have the mindset, or you need to be, I don't know if you need to be good at it, you can be better at it, but how do
Mhm.
you get a team? Because you will have the person that's silent, you will have the person that's the outgoing, right? There's certain roles, people just, like when you went to school, right? You always, oh my God, I get back to that reunion. And
Right,
then
right,
you
right.
you go into that person you were at that time. So in a company, you also have these all kind of personalities.
Right.
So how do you start the critical thinking and making sure that everybody actually are speaking up?
Right.
Has that been a challenge?
Absolutely. That is the challenge, because a lot of time people are not available. They don't prioritize your agenda. They come to your first meeting and then they see that they're just sitting there and listening to somebody, talking about technical issues, and then they retract. Next time they're
Yeah.
not available. So absolutely, this is
Yeah.
life. So here, what happens is that's where the product owners and the product managers role comes into play. And
Yeah.
I teach them that every meeting, even if it is 15-minute meeting, you have to have, and everybody who's in part of that meeting, you should have um, uh, agenda for that person, why he's there, what's his role in this particular thing, what do you expect him to bring, and what do you expect him to get. If
Yeah.
that is not clear, it's
He
going to
shouldn't
be
be
a
at the meeting.
disaster.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think it's a muscle building. Like sometimes product managers will say, okay, that's not my job. No, it is actually, that is what your job is. Your
Yeah.
job is not to chase the KPIs of product success. Your job is to bring these stakeholders in the room and have a very solid participation. And if you're not clear about it, and that's where the trust issue starts
Starts.
creeping in.
Yeah. Oh, that's like full circle here.
It is.
How do you then keep, because it's also important for a company, right, to stay innovative or stay creative or be agile,
Right.
keep evolving. Not sometimes you can say, yeah, you want to be faster, but that's not always the time, the measurement you want to be. It's you're making sure that you are evolving. So
Right.
what kind of skills, right? Because you can say skills are the new currency. What
Right.
kind of skills are you going in? Do you go in and saying, oh, this is the assessment. I looked and I did an assessment, or how do you guide or coach a company in the right direction?
Right. So again, this can be like, let me give you an example of a company. Like a majority of the companies I am interacting with, they are on-premise companies. They have been traditional companies, successful, right? But then they are moving to the cloud, right? So they have to build this new muscle of moving to the cloud, having cloud services and a new pricing model, subscription based, or
Yeah.
pay per use and stuff. So what you asked is that this is like a skill building, right?
Yeah.
And how do you do that? So here, what again, you know, looking from an outside in perspective, that's where my moving right comes into play, where you have to bring the customers, you know, and his persona to the middle. Okay, look at
Mm-hmm.
from his perspective, that what is the value this person is trying to access from the service or the product you are providing. Okay,
Yeah.
so and again, you don't have to build any software or anything like that. You have to just sit down and think about it from his perspective. Okay, so like agile methodologies talk about story mapping and creating those stories. You do that. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it really helps everyone to come on the same page, visually looking at what is the value which we are providing end of the day, what is the path this particular individual will go through the process. And it doesn't have to be the end customer, even if you're not building products as per se. This
Yeah.
is just empathizing. This is the product mindset which
Yeah.
needs to be. So the skill which is there is the product mindset. Everybody think from a product perspective, and the way the products are built from a value perspective, and then visualizing and you know, the terms are design thinking and others, but visualizing how a person is going to go from A to Z in
Yeah.
terms of interaction, and where the values are really getting delivered or not.
Okay. Okay. What about then innovation and creativity? Are you born with it, or can you be taught it, or what's what do you think?
Aren't we all creative people? We are creatures, and we are, creativity is something which we are born with. But I don't know if you can teach creativity or innovations to anyone, in my opinion. But if you bring the teams together, the innovations happen, right?
Yeah.
And you, if you encourage them to think outside the box, you don't you know, shush anybody's idea. Just you will see that guy sitting in India in QA team gave me one of the best ideas for our products to bring to the market. I mean, he was basically asking me why we are not doing this way, and I'm like, brilliant. Why we product managers didn't think about it, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that innovations, and you can't create an innovations department and their job is to just innovate. That doesn't work, right? So I think this is a culture which needs to get created. Again, this is a mindset thing where
Yeah.
innovation can be can become an outcome of the creativity which team is doing in terms of brainstorming, in terms of, hey, why can't I do this? And a lot of time I always say to my teams that go crazy. You know, think you have unlimited budget, unlimited resources, unlimited everything, right? Just go for it. And then the crazy ideas come onto the
Yeah.
board, and then they are the ones who will say, oh, this is not going to work, this is not going to work. So let them own it, and that's where the ownership comes, and that's how the product team becomes empowered as owning this product and success of the product. And that's
Yeah.
where product owners, you know, their pressure gets diluted because the whole team owns it.
So with all these many ideas, it's also important to fail fast,
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't take forever. So how because again, right, I can see your passion here saying get everybody in and you get all these ideas. Budget is unlimited, which is great. I want to work for you now. um, um, so the how do you get the mindset, if you want to say that, to say, okay, how do we validate it, how do we fail fast, so you can get down to saying, okay, we don't take these 10 features in the software, the 5 here is actually the one that will be the ones we should select. But of course you
Right.
have to go through the validation. How do you get there fast?
Yeah. So failing fast is a great thing, but fail forward. Okay. Always. All right. So I don't mind if you fail, but fail forward so that you're moving. And number two is that validate with the people whom you're building this, whatever it is, and
Yeah.
you're failing. Ask them that you failed, and they will tell you why you failed, because you did
Yeah.
not do it. So it is basically an interaction. The sooner you do that, the more you do the cross-checking with your end customer, the better it is for you. And you will come closer to what exactly the value which the customer was looking for.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think failing is a great thing which can happen to you. And I will tell you, I've seen teams getting even more empowered in terms of creativity when they see that my previous idea, which I thought was a brilliant idea in the world,
Yeah.
completely,
It's not good.
fail.
I really like you when you're saying fail fast and fail forward. I really, really love it. That's a great way to look at it, because then it's not negative. You're moving and learn from where you were yesterday on it.
Right.
I really love that. So in terms of innovation, what's the most important thing you can do in your space?
Well, I cannot emphasize that bring your customers closer to your organization. I mean, end customer, whoever it is, because you will be surprised that majority of the companies I go to, I meet like an architect or a QA lead or a QA, somebody in QA or in development, and I say, so when did you last time talk to a customer? And he will say, never. And
Yeah.
I'm like, seriously? Never ever? No, I have never. So for them it is, I'll give you an example. I was working with a team which was in India, and they were in Pune, a big company, big Deloitte team.
Mm-hmm.
And they were working with a client here who was in America. And this client builds products for their internal associates, like shop associates. Okay.
Yeah.
So I asked these guys that, have you ever seen, have you ever been here in America and gone into the shop? And they said, no, never.
No.
And I said, have you ever, gone into the shop like like somebody walked you through
Yeah.
this, the aisles?
Yeah. Be in the
Never.
shoes, right?
Be
Yeah.
in the shoes.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
did that. We actually did 4 hours of video conference with the entire team, just
Yeah.
talking to this associate and just walking around through the aisles. I will
Yeah.
tell you, it was a mind-blowing exercise for them, because it's the first time they saw that the unit itself is so heavy, the guy gets tired. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is the problem. So
Yeah.
for them to provide this feature faster is because this guy gets tired very quickly. Okay. Because it's so heavy device. Those type of things are, unless and until you go through the shoes
It's
of
an
the person.
observation, right? It's not
It's
something you
observation.
see in a spec, but seeing it, that's a struggle with that observation can help to improve it.
Empathizing. Yes.
Yeah.
And then you empathize with the person. And so I think, you asked me like, what's that? The most important thing you can do in your space is that if I can bring the people together,
Yeah.
and bring the customer, let customer drive. At SAP, we had the most successful product, which I was responsible for, was driven by customers, and they used to love it. They used to say that we are the product managers, and
Yeah.
rest is history.
That's the. So how do you, because with customers, how do you get customers to be part of that? Because they have a busy life,
Right.
where they're working with.
Yeah.
Do you create a focus group, or is that like back in the 90s that you called it a focus group? or how do you, what's in it for them? Because sometimes they're a customer at a certain time, and then they're focusing on other product development, if that's what they're working on, or they're using the tool. So what's in it for them to come and say, hey, can we spend an hour, I don't know, every month, every week? What's in it for them?
Right. So there are forums which you can create, and there are a lot of, like you said, focus groups, so customer advisory board and customer value groups, and there are a lot of things which you can do. But I would say that this is the job of product managers, by the way. This is where the product managers come into the play, where they should be able to bring 5 to 6 customers together in terms of telling them exactly, and transparency is very important. So telling them that, why do you want these customers to be part of this cadence? Because and just tell them that, guys, you know what, we want you to drive our product. Okay. I will tell you, there will be a lot of customer folks who will be sitting there, and they will say, okay, that's cool. So you think that my features will come sooner in the product? And we'll say, yeah, absolutely. And you know what really happens? I've seen it, that when you bring 6, 7 customers in a room, and each one thinks that his feature is the most important one, right? And then they start listening to each other's problem. Okay. And then we start prioritizing with them. And then you will see that even I had Walmart in my room, and Walmart put his requirement down because he thought that his problem, the other guy's problem, is bigger, because it's empathy, it's transparency, it's a trust which start bringing. So the customers, if you don't make it interesting, they will not come. So you have to make it interesting, and that's the product manager's role. So it's a lot of work, and this is exactly what I teach. That how do you orchestrate your entire meeting? It's a 1-hour meeting. You have to have, as I said, agenda. You have to have everybody's role well defined, questions to be asked. Everything has to be orchestrated well. So I think
Yeah.
that's how you bring the customers in. You can call it different ceremonies like customer advisory board or whatever. But these people get pulled into
It's the
so
same.
many such
Yeah.
things. Yeah. That
Yeah.
if you give this type of thing that let's work and together and bring this product and build this product together, different ballgame.
Wow. Okay. So looking and reflecting, this is always good, right? What would you tell Sudhanshu 10 years ago?
I don't know. I would say that keep moving and don't let the failures hold you back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, 10 years back, if I really knew that I have to really think more from outside in perspective, okay, which I learned in the last 10 years, I would have started from there. I started very internal, like inside out perspective, because I come from a traditional SAP, very successful company. And, we always thought that we know what should be there in the product. Okay. We had product roadmaps and we had like next 5 years defined extremely well.
To details.
Exactly. To details and to everything. But then when we start, and my job was I was responsible for adoption, and we build the customer success type of customer adoption management type of teams. And that's where I learned that, oh, by the way, I should have started from there, from the customer, from the outside in perspective. I think 10 years back, if I have to tell somebody, that would be my advice. And keep trying, keep throwing darts. Don't worry, maybe one dart will go and punch somebody's eyes. It's okay. But just keep throwing things, keep putting different channels, and don't be afraid of failures.
Yeah, that's good. I really, so thank you so much for being on my podcast today. I'm going to use the one fail fast, fail forward. That's you will see I'm going to use that one from now on. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast and if you like to hear more, please subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Until then, stay curious and keep learning.